Intuitive, should you ask the question, where is this relationship going? Is it time to speed things up, do you think, in your mind? Is it time to know your value and worth and get this person to treat you right? Now, here's the problem with that. As sensitive, intuitive people, when we initiate this conversation, it's a bit too much for us. It's a bit too needy. And it doesn't come across the right way when we're the ones that initiate this conversation. Sometimes we think certain conversations are going to come off empowering in our head and it's going to be a good thing. But then the way it comes out to the other person doesn't sound good at all. And so it's better to actually pull back and find something else to focus on in life rather than getting into a relationship. Doesn't mean you shouldn't value yourself and you shouldn't want any relationship. But here's the thing, if people are taking their time and they're not offering you a relationship, the best thing to do is just keep dating more people until you find somebody who does step it up and does want a relationship. Don't rely on one channel for your dream to come true. And this is a really good lesson in manifesting too. Maybe you want to publish a book, for example, and the channel that you believe you're going to publish the book through is this contest with a particular book publisher. And then you apply for that contest and then you don't win. And then you think, okay, my manifestation dream did not come true. I did not get my book published and it's over. Truthfully, you can have your dreams to come true, but you need to open up multiple channels in order to look for that dream. If you just rely on one channel for the dream to come true, that's when our dreams get shut down. And that's what many people do. They rely on one person they're dating or one channel or one action they're taking in order to get a goal achieved. And then they fail and then they wonder why they didn't get the goal or why they couldn't manifest. And it's simply because they just didn't open enough doors. If you open enough doors in your life, sooner or later, you're going to find a good door. Even if you live in a society that's, let's say, for example, with dating, you live in a very secular society and a lot of people don't want to settle down, right? Well, if you keep opening yourself up and opening doors, sooner or later, you will find something good. It may take a long time. You may have to ask like 100 people. Well, don't ask people out on dates. You know what I mean? Let them ask you. But having said that, when people see that you're available, sooner or later, you will find a good person. It just takes some time, and you need to be really patient with yourself. Not every single person you meet, you're going to evaluate correctly. You might think some people are good people and then you realize you're wrong because there's a lot of manipulation on the internet and people are figuring it out all the time. And so the only way we really become immune to that is through ground experience and through education as well, by getting to know what these different games are that people play. One big bypass and one secret I have found is just completely skip on alcohol, just so you don't drink it. And that will save you a lot of headaches and trouble because there are games related to alcohol and getting it. And so if you just avoid alcohol altogether and quit, you will avoid a lot of games that way. Another way to avoid games that people play is to just not be attached to certain results. Doesn't mean you don't deserve it or you don't want it, but don't be attached. Like, be really, really happy with where you're at as a single woman or a single man. And if you're very happy in your own skin and happy with your life the way that it is, no one can really manipulate you. No one can really abuse you because you're not going to be motivated to get into any kind of relationship that has any negativity in it, right? It doesn't mean healthy relationships have zero negativity. There's always a little bit. Like, we have to be realistic. There's some small doses of negativity that can come up from time to time because we're just human. And even 6 sensories have negativity from time to time. But if you're very perfectionist and you're like, there can't be any negativity at all, anytime, then that's kind of a form of not wanting any relationship at all, which is fine. Maybe you just decide that you are asexual and you don't want any relationships for the rest of your life. And yeah, that's a decision in itself that you may find very peaceful and very fulfilling. But a lot of humans want relationships of some kind, And so for us, we have to just get really immune from being snake bitten, so to say. You know, the snake bites and we get sore and we get really fed up with it, and then at some point when the snake bites again and you see the games being played out again, you just become immune to it. You shift. Like, I feel this shift going on in myself, and I'm getting different guidance than I ever have before to explore different groups of people and explore different kinds of communities that I've never thought about before. And I'm not going to mention which communities I'm exploring yet, because it is an exploration. I don't know that I'm going to align myself with this community yet or become one of them. But I'm getting guidance to really check out different groups of people than I had considered in the past. And I think that's because there's a lot of turmoil going on in the world, and there is safety in numbers when we get together as a group, as human beings. If people are collecting and getting together over a common cause that is fundamentally good, then that is something of a protection for all of us intuitive, sensitive people, that we don't have to face the world alone, that there are communities out there who can help us face the world together. And, you know, as intuitive, sensitive, sixth sensory people, we are a bit like tortoises with no shell. We're very vulnerable, and people on the internet say, don't be vulnerable, don't share your vulnerabilities. It's like, well, the way we show up in our vibration sometimes can just be vulnerable because we're so loving, even without saying anything. We're so generous, we're so kind. And so people do pick up on that. It's like so funny. Five sensories, they don't intellectually believe in energy, but they know the energy. Like, they pick up on who we are quite fast as six sensories, and they go, oh, that's a nice person, an empathetic person. Let me try my games on them and see if they work, right? And so as six sensories, we need to be a bit aware of that, not to be negative or suspicious, but be wise and discerning, understand where people are coming from, and get to know them slowly. Don't let them in too quick. And it's one thing to talk about intimacy and saying, like, when's the right time to be physically intimate, but I recommend really considering your emotional intimacy. When do you share deeper topics of conversation? Be a bit careful about that, about sharing things about yourself that are incredibly deep or incredibly personal too early on with others, because they don't deserve necessarily your authentic self or your wisest self. Like, if you're an intuitive or a psychic and you give readings, for example, you charge money for that, and people are like, oh, it's a ripoff. And it's like, no, it's not, because you're giving something very authentic that people really desire and want. And most of the time when people are just giving away that authenticity in their personal lives, they're getting ripped off. Like, there has to be a price to pay for people to see that very authentic version of you, that version that allows you to give and be of service and help people. If there's no price on it, then people just take it for free, and it's not a good thing. It's not a good thing for society. It's not a good thing for us intuitives. We don't help the world when we're being taken advantage of. And so we need to be discerning about who we're sharing our depth with. Who are we sharing our wisdom with? And don't just share it with a stranger who seems nice on the first date, because anybody can pretend to be nice. And if people are really not being nice in the first time you meet them, then they're really not nice people. But a lot of nasty people can make nice like they're nice on the first few dates or the first few months, and you have to be really careful, because their true nature comes out later, and you feel kind of dumb for sharing your intimate self with these people. So yeah, that's all right though. Lessons learned. We all have our classroom as intuitives, and there's nothing to be ashamed of about that. We can learn and we can grow, and then we can do better and be wiser in our relationships going forward.